Before the world learned his name, Earl Denton was simply the janitor, the old man with a mop. But even before the sun rose, he had already earned more ground than any barbell ever would. The gym didn't open until 5 a.m., but Earl was already inside by 4:30. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a pale sheen across the rubber mats. The scent of disinfectant clung to the air, clean, sterile, sharp. Earl moved with quiet precision, wiping down each bench, aligning mats, tossing away crumpled pre-workout packets left like confetti from the day before. His knees clicked softly when he crouched, the small price of time well spent. He wore the same faded white t-shirt and loose gray sweatpants every day. His sneakers, though well worn, were always spotless. On his shoulder, a threadbare towel hung like a sash, half armor, half insignia. His hands, lean but steady, gripped the mop handle like a staff. He didn't hum. He didn't mutter. He just worked. By 5:58, the music hit a bass-heavy remix pounding through the gym speakers. The regulars arrived, muscle-bound men in sleeveless hoodies, women in sculpted leggings with Bluetooth earbuds and laser focus. The clank of weights, the spray of chalk, the occasional grunt, this was their church. And Earl, he was the man who dusted the pews. Brad saw him first. "Yo, Earl," missed a puddle he called across the floor. Might slip and crack, a hip old man. Laughter, sharp and unfiltered. Mikey slapped the lat pull-down machine and grinned. "Gravity's winning, my guy." Tino mid-curl didn't even glance away from the mirror. "Dude probably thinks hit is a blood pressure reading." Earl didn't stop. He turned the mop bucket, wheeled it silently to the puddle, and cleaned it in smooth, practiced motions. His face didn't change. No blink, no sigh. Just steady hands and silence. Ravi, barely 19 and new behind the front desk, heard it all. He looked up from his clipboard, eyes darting toward Earl, then to the trio of men laughing like it was just another rep. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He didn't say a word. He wasn't sure if he should. Earl passed him on his way to the dumbbell rack. He paused briefly to re-rack a 45-pound weight someone had left tilted. His fingers wrapped around the steel, and for just a moment his hand lingered, like he was shaking the hand of an old friend. His grip firmed, his breath stilled. Then quietly he placed the weight in its rightful place. No one noticed. No one but Ravi. Nobody knew that Earl once pulled wounded men from burning Humvees in Fallujah, or that the scar beneath his shirt traced the edge of a mortar blast in Helmand. No one asked. To them he was just the old guy with the mop, and Earl didn't offer. He came for the quiet, for the rhythm, for the order that cleaning brought, a world where everything could be wiped down and reset, where pain could be folded into towels and tucked away with disinfectant and dust. Later that morning, Brad spilled a protein shake near the dumbbells. "Oops," he said loudly. "Hope the janitor's got enough cartilage left to bend down for that." Earl heard. He was across the room cleaning mirrors, but he heard. He walked over calm and unbothered and began to clean the spill. Towel in one hand, squeegee in the other. His knees bent slowly with the sound of an old hinge. Brad leaned over him. "Takes guts to show up knowing you peaked before I was born." Still, Earl said nothing. But Ravi saw it then. A flicker. The way Earl's jaw tightened, not in anger, but in memory. A breath held just a second longer than necessary. A small pause in his rhythm, like a pianist holding the silence before the final note. And for just a second, Ravi understood something no one else did. Earl Denton, the quiet janitor at Primal Core Gym, endured taunts and mockery every morning from the younger lifters. But Ravi, the young front desk worker, began to see something different in him, a strength hidden behind silence. Thursday morning rolled in heavy with humidity, the kind that clings to the skin and makes concrete sweat before sunrise. Inside the gym, the air was already humming with energy, thumping music, clinking weights, and the bravado of bodies pushing for perfection. Earl was where he always was, wiping down the stretch mats by the lockers. His hands moved slowly, deliberately, like they were following a rhythm only he could hear. He didn't look up when Brad walked in, didn't flinch when Mikey dropped his water bottle just a little too close to his mop bucket. The mop moved in lazy figure eights, steady and even. The crash came sharp and sudden. An Olympic bar loaded with 4 25-kilo plates had been dumped haphazardly in the walkway near the inclined bench. The weights teetered, just shy of rolling. One end blocked access to the water cooler. Brad lounged nearby, arms crossed. Clean up aisle 3, he called out with mock importance. Somebody left their groceries out. Mikey leaned against the wall, scrolling through his phone. Don't want Gramps tripping over it. Lawsuits and all. Tino snorted, already halfway through his pre-workout. Give the man a cape, he's about to mop up the villainy of bad gym etiquette. Ravi, watching from the front desk, felt his stomach twist. His hand hovered near the walkie clipped to his belt, then fell. He looked to Earl, searching his face for a sign of reaction. But Earl gave only a small nod, as if signaling to Ravi stay back. He walked over. Each step seemed to hush the noise around him. His sneakers pressed gently against the mat, his shadow trailing longer than usual in the low lighting. Earl bent not all the way to the floor, just enough to check the balance. He ran a hand over the bar, felt the chalk dust on the knurling. His fingertips lingered. Then he set his stance, feet shoulder-width apart, knees flexed, spine aligned. The kind of posture no YouTube tutorial could teach. He lifted. No scream. No grunt, no fanfare. Just motion, pure and clean. The bar rose until it hovered at thigh level, steady as a shelf. Arms locked. Core tight. Ravi's mouth went dry. Mikey froze mid-scroll. Tino blinked slow. Brad sat upright, suddenly unsure. Earl walked the bar to the squat rack like it was a shopping cart. He re-racked the weights with the precision of a man who'd done it 1,000 times. Then he wiped his hands on the towel at his waist, turned and resumed mopping the mats like nothing had happened. But something had. The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was seismic, a crack in the gym's ritual of noise. Ravi stood frozen behind the counter, his heart drumming like the bass from the speakers. When Earl disappeared into the hallway, Ravi moved on instinct. He tapped into the gym's security feed, loaded camera 4, the one pointed at the free weight area, and rewound. There it was. 43 seconds of effortless power. A moment so subtle, so exact, it felt like a secret being kept in plain sight. He clipped the footage, trimmed the awkward silence at the end, and stared at the screen. It didn't feel right to post it, not publicly, not yet. But he wanted someone else to feel what he had felt, wanted someone to see Earl. He added a single line. You never know who you're standing next to. He shared it to his private Instagram story. Only close friends. By lunchtime, he had 50 replies. By 4:00 p.m., it had been shared over 1,000 times. Someone had screen recorded it. A Twitter thread followed. By nightfall, a local fitness influencer, Casey Tran, reposted it to her 500,000 followers with the caption, "Respect is the heaviest weight and most of us still can't lift it." Comments came pouring in. Please tell me he's real. That form was textbook. No belt, no warm-up. He moved like he'd done it in a war zone. Who is this man? Back at the gym the next morning, the shift was subtle, but it was there. No one laughed when Earl passed. Mikey didn't blast music. Brad for once arrived without comment. Ravi nodded as usual, but Earl's return nod had a depth to it, now like two soldiers passing in a hallway. By late morning, the front doors opened, and in walked Casey Tran. She wasn't dressed for squats. She had a camera in one hand and a quiet, reverent energy in the other. She found Earl near the mirrors, folding towels into clean, crisp rectangles. "Sir," she said gently. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Earl didn't stop folding. "That depends." She smiled. "I'm Casey Tran. I reshared the video. I just needed to know." "Was that really you?" Earl finished the last towel. "Depends which video you mean. The one where you lifted 100 kilos like you were setting it on a dinner table." He gave a single nod. "Just clearing the walkway." Her laugh was soft. "That walkway cleared more than space, Mr. Denton. It cleared ignorance." She asked to profile him, interview, spotlight recognition. He politely declined. "I'm not here for stories," he said. "Just stains." Later, Ravi approached cautiously. "I didn't think it would spread like that," he murmured. "I didn't mean for it to go viral." Earl didn't turn. He was lining up a row of foam rollers. "I've been invisible a long time, son." He paused. "But sometimes the world needs reminding." Ravi swallowed, then nodded. "Thank you for letting them see you." That afternoon, Earl paused in front of the incline bench again. He didn't lift this time. He just touched the bar, his fingers resting on the cold steel like it was familiar. Reverent. Back at the desk, Ravi read comment after comment. The posts weren't mocking anymore. They were curious, respectful, hungry to know more. And for the first time since he started working there, Ravi felt like the gym wasn't just a place for flexing, it was a place where something real had happened. Earl didn't need a speech. He didn't need the applause, but the echo of what he'd lifted wouldn't go away. Earl Denton lifted 100 kilos with quiet precision, shaking the foundation of a gym that had laughed at him only hours earlier. The video went viral, but Earl wanted no spotlight, just his mop and his silence. Still, the air around him had changed, and the gym was no longer just iron and sweat, it had become witness. Saturday mornings at Primal Core usually followed a script selfie smoothies and the hum of ambition. But this time, something felt different. Conversations were softer. Weights clinked in rhythm, but the bravado had less bite. The building itself seemed to hold its breath. A folding table stood near the back wall beneath the squat rack where it had all happened. A laminated sign taped above it read, "Respect isn't measured in reps. Special guest session today only. Mr. Earl Denton." There was no microphone, no camera crew, no branded gym merch. Earl sat on a bench towel over his shoulder, a water bottle by his side. He wore the same faded shirt, the same quiet posture. This wasn't a seminar. It wasn't even a class. It was something smaller, yet heavier. One by one they came. The first was Tino. He approached hesitantly, headphones still hanging around his neck, though no music played. "Mr. Denton." Tino cleared his throat, unsure. "I didn't know. I thought I did. But I didn't." Earl didn't speak, just looked at him, still steady, waiting. "I acted like I knew everything," Tino admitted, voice low. "But I don't. Not even close." Earl nodded once. "Good," he said. "That's step one." Mikey came next, his hoodie for once zipped all the way up. His walk was slower than usual. He didn't bring words, just an outstretched hand. "I'm sorry, sir," he said. Earl gripped it briefly. Firm. Honest. "Don't be sorry," Earl said. "Be better." Then Brad stood across the room, arms folded. He looked at the others, then at Earl. Something behind his eyes had broken open, a sharpness dulled, a mirror cracked. He walked forward, each step quieter than the last. "I was raised to respect people who earned it," Brad muttered. "And I didn't." Earl raised his chin. "Then why didn't you?" Brad's jaw tightened. "Because I thought strength looked like me." Earl stood. The room dropped a notch into silence. "No," he said calmly. "Strength isn't what you lift. It's what you carry." He stepped forward. "I carried wounded men out of burning trucks in Helmand. I carried silence when their families asked me what happened. I carry their names every single day." "Do you carry anything like that?" Son Brad's mouth opened, then closed. He shook his head. Earl leaned in just enough. "Then don't judge the weight of a man by the silence he wears." Brad's face didn't crack, but something deeper did. He nodded. Not for show, not for redemption, just to understand. A clipboard appeared on the table, unsigned, unannounced. At the top was scrawled in thick marker, "What Mr. Earl Denton taught me today." One by one, gym members added their thoughts. "Strength comes with silence. Some uniforms don't look like uniforms. Tricks don't measure a man by his job. Assume everyone around you has lived more than you know." Ravi added his line quietly. "When you don't know who someone is, treat them like they've already carried more than you." Earl never read the notes. He didn't need to. He just folded the sign, gently handed it to Ravi, and said, "You'll know when to put it back up." That evening, the light outside turned a deep golden hue. It filtered through the tall gym windows, casting long shadows across the cardio machines and lifting platforms. Earl was finishing his rounds, checking supply closets and realigning yoga mats. The gym buzzed with its usual rhythm, but under it ran something new, a current of reverence, like a church learning how to whisper. Just as he was about to wheel his mop toward the back hallway, the front doors opened. A young woman in light blue scrubs stepped inside. Her posture was unsure, but her eyes were steady. "Mr. Denton," she asked. Earl paused. Towel in one hand, mop in the other. "That's me." "I'm Camilla," she said. "My father, Isaac Mendez. He served with you, Fallujah." 2004. Time slowed. Earl blinked. A name from smoke. a face from fire. He passed last year, she said, swallowing. But he talked about you. Said if I ever found you, I should thank you for letting me have a father, when the odds said I wouldn't. She handed him a small envelope. Inside was a photograph, two men in dusty camouflage arms slung around each other. Laughter frozen in ash and sunlight. Earl folded the photo with care, then slid it into the breast pocket of his shirt right above his heart. He was the brave one, Earl whispered. Camilla nodded, smiled faintly, and left without another word. Ravi, who had quietly watched from behind the desk, wheeled out a small easel. On it sat a brass plaque, freshly framed. He set it beneath the squat rack just below the mirror. It read, "In honor of Earl Denton, us Army Special Forces retired." He lifted more than weight, he carried us all. Earl didn't say anything when he saw it. He just stood there for a moment. Still, then nodded once. Like an old tree greeting wind had seen before. He picked up his mop again, resumed wiping the floors. Not for recognition, not for pride, but because that's who he was. The room filled up again. But this time, weights were re-racked, benches wiped down, voices a little softer. The gym had changed, but not as much as the people inside it. Brad passed by the plaque later that evening. He stopped, stared, and looked over to Ravi. "He's still working?" he asked. Ravi nodded, smiling faintly. "He doesn't stop." Earl overheard. He looked up from the towel rack and said evenly, "I was never here to impress you, just to keep the floor clean so you don't trip. On your way to becoming better men." He smiled, not wide, not performative. Just enough. In a quiet moment of grace, Earl Denton was honored not with applause, but with understanding. The men who mocked him came forward humbled. A plaque now stands beneath the squat rack, a tribute to a man who lifted more than weight. But Earl's story wasn't finished. Legacy doesn't rest in ceremony. It lives in what we choose to carry forward. Kurikandi. Monday came like any other, overcast skies, humid air pressing against the gym's glass doors, and the soft hiss of the espresso machine in the lobby. But Primal Core felt different. Not louder, not busier, just quieter inside. Quieter in a way that meant listening. Earl arrived as always at exactly 5:25 a.m. Same sneakers, same faded shirt towel folded neatly over his shoulder. He didn't linger at the plaque or slow down at the squat rack. He just wheeled his mop bucket into place and began his morning rhythm. But he wasn't alone. A woman stood by the door, early 30s at most, dressed in dark green scrubs and sneakers worn from long shifts. Her hands clutched a small white envelope. "Mr. Denton," she asked. He turned, mop in hand. "That's me." "My name's Camilla," she said. "We met briefly Saturday. My father was Isaac Mendez. You served with him." Earl's posture shifted slightly, not stiff, but alert, like a breeze had carried in something sacred. "I remember. He used to talk about you when I was little," she said. "Said you saved his life more than once. Said you were quiet but steady. The kind of man who always showed up." She held out the envelope. "I didn't get to say it properly, so thank you for giving me a father when I should have lost him." Earl opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a second photo, one he'd never seen. A younger Isaac in full gear standing with Earl at a field hospital. Earl's arm around Isaac's shoulders, smiling, but with dust and exhaustion still clinging to their uniforms. Earl folded the photo and slipped it into his chest pocket, placing it directly over his heart. He nodded once. He was the brave one. Camilla's voice trembled. "He used to say that too." She left without asking for anything more. Later that morning, Ravi walked through the gym floor holding a small plaque frame under one arm and a screwdriver in the other. He approached the mirror beside the incline bench, the spot where Earl had lifted the 100 kilos. Quietly, respectfully, he secured the frame to the wall. The brass gleamed in the light. Strength isn't loud. Real strength carries. "In honor of Earl Denton, U.S. Army Special Forces." Some stopped to read it. Some didn't. But those who didn't leave the same. By noon, subtle changes had taken root. The floor stayed cleaner longer. Members re-racked their weights without being asked. Chalk trays were wiped down. Water bottles were picked up. Ravi didn't say anything, but he noticed. Even Brad. He lingered longer near the plaque now. He no longer strutted or shouted over the music. He trained hard, but with a different posture, One less about performance, more about purpose. That evening, Brad passed by Earl as he polished the glass near the cardio room. He stopped, looked down, then back up. You still working? Earl didn't pause. That's the job. Brad nodded. You ever think about stopping? Earl looked up. Why would I stop just when they're starting to listen? Brad didn't have a reply for that, but he walked away slower than usual. That weekend, something new appeared at the gym. A bulletin board mounted beside the water fountain near the weight room. At the top in bold black lettering, "What strength means to me." Pens dangled from strings. Note cards stacked neatly. Members began filling it quietly, being consistent even when no one notices, carrying grief and still showing up, not needing a spotlight to shine. The mop is heavier than it looks. One card written in sharp block print simply said, "Because of Mr. Denton, I called my grandfather today." Ravi added a final note near the edge. Some men lift weights, some men lift others. Earl never read the board, but each morning as he passed it, he paused for a second, just enough to anchor his breath, then kept moving. On the gym's social media, a new tradition had started. Every Monday, a different member shared what they'd learned from Earl. Ravi started it with a simple photo of the mop leaning against the wall. His strength didn't begin at the barbell. It began long before that, and it never left. The post gathered thousands of likes, but more importantly, it gathered respect. Miss Sloan, the gym's general manager, approved a new program, quietly titled Legacy Strength. It wasn't a class. It was a mentorship initiative, pairing older veterans and retired first responders with younger gym members needing guidance. Earl never volunteered, but on the third week he was there, sitting on a bench next to a nervous 18-year-old named Ty. They didn't lift that day. They just talked, or rather Ty talked. Earl listened, and that was enough. Earl never changed his routine. Still 525, still the towel folded once twice, still the mop, still the silent rounds. But the gym had changed around him. Not out of obligation, not from fear, but from understanding. Because when the loudest person in the room becomes the quietest, something shifts. One Monday, Earl lingered a little longer by the barbell. Not to lift it, just to place his hand on the steel. The grip was familiar, cool, honest. Some weights you carry for life. He stood still, eyes on the reflection in the mirror. His own eyes met the man he once was and still was. Not in uniform, not in battle, just in presence. The brass plaque beneath him caught a sliver of morning light. He lifted more than weight. He carried us all.